Whenever you want to get something done by some people, you offer them money. If you don't have any money, then you offer them future rewards like, if you rob this bank, we'll both walk out with a lot of money. If you want to raise an army and you don't have any money, but just sweet words, then you tell them that if we win this war, we're going to have lots of money. And we'll also have a lot of women, and we can have them as sex slaves. However, if you die in the process, then don't worry. The women you're gonna get are gonna be even hotter than the earthly ones, but in the afterlife. And which offer you take depends on how stupid you are. You'd be thinking, Haris, which supervillain are you gonna be discussing today? Well, I'll give you a hint. It's the usual suspect. Videos like these do get demonetized, therefore hit the like button so it comes up on people's recommendations. If you would like to support the channel, then try becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/xmuslim. And if you can't do that, then try hitting that super thanks button. See what happens. In case if you're still wondering, then let me ease your pain. I am talking about the greatest man who ever lived, a man who is to be emulated for eternity. For example, if you can't make up your mind whether you should marry a young girl, then ask yourself, what would he have done? Actually, don't do that. You'll end up in prison. I am talking about our dearly beloved Prophet Muhammad. So we are told that Prophet Muhammad was a very steadfast and charismatic man, which he probably was, but not many people believed him in the first 10 years of his prophethood career. He was forced out of his home city of Mecca and he settled in Medina. A few local Muslims helped him establish Medina as a base. Now that Prophet Muhammad has a solid base outside of his hometown Mecca, the way he spreads his message of peace also changes. In Mecca, he used to threaten the infidels with hellfire and God's punishment, which obviously no sane person would take seriously. Just like you don't take that guy seriously. So, when nobody takes you seriously, what do? You use force. This is why experts have differentiated between the Meccan verses and the Medinan verses. The Meccan verses, as the name suggests, are from the period when the Prophet Muhammad was in Mecca, a weak man with no army, and hence the verses threaten people with imaginary punishment and ordered Muhammad to show restraint. For example, this Meccan verse 46:35 tells Muhammad to be patient like previous prophets and don't be too hasty in going after the infidel. Our time will come. Just be cool. It's okay. Also, the infamous verse 1096, which a lot of Muslims fool non-Muslims with, which says, for you is your faith and for me, my faith. So basically, Allah, which is Prophet Muhammad, is saying, just be cool, okay? Chill. Don't worry about it. Just everyone live in peace and harmony. Allah will decide on Judgment Day. Wouldn't that have been a wonderful world? Wake up, Harry. Oh, sorry, I was having a nice dream. So because he was kind and soft, which was because he was weak, Muhammad didn't have much success in Mecca. In fact, he was forced to run in the middle of the night to Medina to save his life. And they call us cowards? Now that he's in Medina, the verses that Muhammad came up with in Medina are therefore called the Medinan verses. Prophet Muhammad is no longer threatening people with imaginary divine punishments or telling people that you have your faith, I have my faith. No, but instead, Muhammad started raising an army, and therefore Allah, which is Prophet Muhammad, is now threatening to attack them, like in this Medinan verse 929. Fight against those who do not believe in Allah or in the last day and who do not consider unlawful what Allah and His Messenger blah 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 blah. Basically, from for you is your faith and for me is my faith to kill them all. This whole chapter 9 called Surah Tawbah is filled with these violent, aggressive verses. Totally opposite to the kind of vibe that we got from the Meccan verses. Here's another one that I like to throw in Muslim apologists' faces. Indeed, the penalty for those who wage war against Allah and His Messenger and strive upon earth corruption is none but they be killed or crucified, or that their hands and feet be cut off from opposite sides. Cut off their hands and feet from opposite sides? That's why real Muslims don't like Geneva Convention. Oh no, actually they do, but only when they are the captives. Anyway, as you can see now, it's no longer for you is your faith and for me is my faith, or if you don't believe in one true Allah, then Allah will punish you in the afterlife, la-di-da. So now that you understand the argument of Meccan verses Medinan verses, and understand the reasons behind this transition from a crazy, wide-eyed, apocalyptic evangelist prophet to a pretty impressive caravan robber. So now that Prophet Muhammad has moved away from giving imaginary threats to giving real-world threats, he's gonna need an army. How do you convince people to rob caravans and attack villages? Well, you promise them with war booty and booty. Prophet Muhammad's early fighters were not his die-hard believers. They were literally more interested in robbing caravans and collecting spoils of war and, of course, sex slaves. So much so that Muslim historians themselves have recorded disputes among Muhammad's fighters over the distribution of war booty. In fact, the whole chapter 8, Surah Anfal, was sent down by Allah, which is Prophet Muhammad, to settle the disputes between Muslims. Check out the very first verse of chapter 8. They ask you about the spoils. Say, the spoils are for Allah and His Messenger. This verse came down because Muslims were fighting over who gets what after the Battle of Badr. In fact, on page 321 of Muhammad's biography, it is even recorded that there were some Muslims who only went out with Muhammad so they could collect war booty. And some Muslims were trying to go to campaigns in which they wouldn't have to fight and just collect easy war booty. These early Muslims were only interested in collecting war booty and did not want to die. That's why, to ensure they wouldn't die in vain, Allah, which is Prophet Muhammad, of course, said that angels will be fighting for you against the infidels, as per this verse 8:1-2. When your Lord revealed to the angels, I am with you, so make firm the feet of those who believe. I shall cast awe into the hearts of those who disbelieve. So strike at the necks and strike at every finger joints of theirs. Despite Muhammad dangling the carrot of angels, Muslims were still scared to go to war, so Muhammad pulled out a stick and threatened Muslims with hellfire if they ran away from the battlefield, as per the Quran 8:15. Oh, you who believe, when you face the disbelievers in battle, do not, I dare you, do not turn your backs to them. Whoever turns his back to them on such a day, unless it is for a tactic in the battle, his abode is Jahannam. It is an evil place to return. Anyway, after all of that, Muslims managed to win and defeat the infidels. But like an annoying kid, Allah, which is obviously Prophet Muhammad, said, you didn't win this war. It was I who won the war for you, as it says in Quran 8:17. So it is not you who killed them, but in fact, Allah killed them. I mean, just in the previous verse, he was making them promises of angels and pleading with them not to run away from the battlefield. And once Muhammad won, well, it was Allah who won, not you. How stupid were these people? Anyway, these Muslims were so keen on collecting war booty that they even accused the Prophet of stealing a red robe from the spoils of Badr. And as usual, Allah, which is Prophet Muhammad, came to testify in Prophet Muhammad's favor and said, no, he did not steal anything. All of you will be paid in full. Funnily enough, it's not even the Muslims who are interested in war booty, but Muhammad himself is pretty keen on collecting some war booty. Check out this verse 8:41. And know that whatever spoils you receive, its 1/5 is for Allah and for His Messenger. Yes, the creator of the universe, of billions and billions of galaxies, needs some petty spoils of war from poor desert tribesmen. Yeah, sounds legit. Surely Allah is not Prophet Muhammad, yeah? Okay, let's be fair. Prophet Muhammad was going to have a lot of wives. In fact, 9 of them. And a lot of sex slaves too. So, chill out, guys. He was saving up. Do you have any idea about the rising inflation and cost of living in ancient Arabia? Imagine the electricity bill in that heat. So now that we understand how Prophet Muhammad used to entice people to go to war on one sunny Arabian day, Prophet Muhammad decides to attack the Byzantines. Muslims have been raiding and pillaging poor nomadic Arab tribes, but going after the Byzantines is a whole different challenge. The Prophet Muhammad needs men. A lot of fighting men. So he goes back to his old trick. Hey, Abdul, do you want to make some money and get a lot of sex slaves? Yes, of course. Why not, Prophet? Let's go to war. Sure, let me get my shield. But who are we fighting? Abdul, this time we are going against the Byzantines. They need a bit of Islam in their lives. Oh, sorry, Prophet, my back hurts. I can't go. Muslims were making excuses left, right, and center and did not want to die by taking on a superpower for the glory of Muhammad. Check out Quran 9:4-5. Only those people ask you to be excused who do not believe in Allah and in the last day. And to make sure the morale of the few remaining fighting men doesn't fall, Muhammad makes up another verse that, it is Allah who made them stay back because they would have been of no use anyway. One such excusing person was Al-Jad. So the Prophet asks him, hey, do you not want to fight the blonde ones? Al-Jad replied, oh, Prophet, I am so infatuated with women that when I see these hot blondes, I fear I may not be able to control myself and will indulge myself in orgies, so I can't go. Prophet Muhammad could have said, okay, well, come with us and we won't let you have any sex slaves. But the Prophet knew that in that case, he might turn around and say, well, what's the point of me going and risking my life then? Clever man. Heartbroken as usual, Muhammad makes up another verse. Check out this verse 949. There are some of them who say, exempt me and do not expose me to the temptation of banging blonde women. They have already fallen into temptation, and hell is where they're going to go. It's amazing when Muhammad can't have his way, he always threatens them with hellfire. If this was a religion of restraint from worldly desires like sex and debauchery, then surely he could have restrained himself. But no, he didn't, because Islam actually encourages lots of sex and debauchery by acquiring tons of sex slaves. So much so that this guy's basically saying, sorry, my can't handle it anymore. And Allah, which is Prophet Muhammad himself, is upset at the guy for wanting to stay behind and not get tempted into his raping and pillaging and collecting blonde sex slaves. If I was a warlord wanting to raid a town, steal their belongings and capture their women as sex slaves, this is exactly how I would have tempted my soldiers. So today we learned that Prophet Muhammad started his career as a doomsday prophet. When nobody took him seriously, he was forced out of Mecca to Medina. There he thought a peaceful approach didn't work, so let's move to plan B, i.e. attack. So the Prophet of Peace gathered some band of highway robbers and enticed them with war booty and some blonde women to spread his message of peace by robbing caravans and attacking villages. And that's how, ladies and gentlemen, Islam started. Hope you like this video. Videos like these do get demonetized, so please like, share, and subscribe. And to support the channel, consider becoming a patron by going to patreon.com/xmuslim. And if you can't do that, then try hitting that one. Yeah, that super thanks button and see what happens. Until the next video, bye-bye. If you like my video and would like to support my channel, then you can be my patron by going to patreon.com/xmuslim, or you can simply buy me a coffee.